Good evening and welcome to Sunset News this Friday evening. As always, we bring you news, community stories, economics, weather, and sports. I am Glenora Shipura. In the news tonight, the Biomass Fair hosted by Standard Bank serves as a dynamic platform to propel the growth of the biomass sector. A webinar was held before the event started yesterday. The following video is contributed by Standard Bank Namibia. Let's take a look.
Good afternoon. My name is Sindane Kundi, Marketing Manager at Standard Bank, and welcome to the Standard Bank Biomass Webinar. Preparations have kicked off for Namibia's biggest biomass sector event, the Standard Bank Biomass Fair 2023, under the theme, Igniting the Growth of the Biomass Sector in Namibia. This event will take place from the 7th to the 9th of September at Grasp Barman Resort, and aims to promote the booming biomass sector in Namibia and the surrounding regions at large. Today, I am joined on the blue couch with Mr. Solomon Kint, Standard Bank economist, Mr. Gerard Mokwahima, Head of Agribusiness at Standard Bank, and most notably, Mr. Progress Kashandula, CEO at NBIG and the organizers of the Biomass Fair.
And much of the charcoal sees itself in the EUs. There is some charcoal going to the UK, and some charcoal ends into South Africa. But there are quite a lot of other value chains which are developing at the moment. The other day I was just going through a document, and I realized, an economic benefit which the Otjikoto biomass plant is actually going to bring.
Now getting into our next story, Popular Democratic Movement lawmaker Hidipo Hamata has implored the government to explore innovative policies that will put an end to long-distance marriages to safeguard the well-being of spouses, children, and the sanctity of marriages. Hamata will table this motion in Parliament on the 13th of September and added that although he is not married, he hopes this motion will help not only married couples, but single Namibians as well. I wish to emphasize that one does not require marital status to engage in discussions regarding marriage matters within this chamber. I stand here as a representative of both young and elderly citizens, both married and single. The MP said the effects that long-distance marriages have on children are profound and devastating and should be stopped. This issue strikes at the core of our society, impacting the economic stability of families, eroding the sacred bonds of marriage, and causing immeasurable harm to the innocent children caught in its grasp, he added. Heart-wrenching. Now, the motion, among other things, highlights that economic impact that long-distance marriages have when spouses are forced to maintain separate households. Now getting into our next stories, Namibia's aviation sector is unlikely to be affected by the standoff between Menzies Aviation and Paragon regarding a ground handling contract at the Hosea Kutako International Airport. The Namibia Airports Company has said Namibia was putting in all the preparatory work to ensure that it would pass an International Civil Aviation Organization safety audit scheduled to take place next year in April. NAC CEO BC Uirap said during a consultative meeting held to discuss the recent impasse. We are getting ready ourselves. The regulator and even other players, even the private partners, are getting ready for this audit, and we remain confident as a state that we should pass this process, Uirap said of efforts to ensure Namibia passes its safety audit. I don't think it will have an impact. We are getting ourselves ready. The ICAO audit is not on the NAC only. It is state-owned, the entire aviation. That is the normal process, he added. Namibia's aviation stakeholders had appointed a steering committee to ensure all the ducks were in order and that the country would pass the audit. Walter Hazap and Joro Asap, senior traditional councillors of the Kumanen traditional community, are of the opinion that the government is exercising targeted discrimination against the Kumanen people, denying their women and children land despite their ancestral ties. Now, unlike other traditional authorities, they believe they are being treated unfairly, as communal land was never bought back by the government from those who forced them from their communal land. where they farmed during the Odendaal Plan in the 60s. They thus find themselves without a place to put their people, leading to children ending up in the streets in hopes of making ends meet. Kumanen people are reduced to nomadic life. We do not even have a place to practice our costumes, traditions, and norms. I think they want the Kumanen Traditional Authority to be extinct, said Hassab. This dire situation of street kids has resulted in many of them getting hit by cars and suffering severe injuries at traffic intersections as they had no safe refuge. Tragically, some even lost their lives in the flood last December. Most of our children used to occupy the land that was purchased by a Russian billionaire and were forcibly chased away onto the streets. While we do our best to take care of them, many end up running away from the shelters and assistance we provide, as life there remains an enduring hardship, said ASAP. Now, in an exclusive interview with Namibian Sun, Namibian and Angolan music sensation Florida shared the exciting news that has music aficionados buzzing with anticipation. The talented artist has officially inked a 4-year deal with Virgin Music, an affiliate of the renowned Universal Music Group. Now, Florida, now based in the vibrant city of Lisbon, Portugal, revealed that while Virgin Music originates from the United Kingdom, its international presence extends to Portugal. The artist's journey from the heart of Namibia to the cobblestone streets of Lisbon marks a significant milestone in his burgeoning career. Florida also dropped the bombshell that he's set to release new music at the end of this month, promising to deliver a sound that will captivate audiences worldwide. With his infectious passion and undeniable talent, Florida is undoubtedly a rising star to watch in the global music scene. Now, in our Story of the Day segment, the Swakopmund Mayoral Development Fund donates towards 20 schools in the town. We get into this after the break.
Neopaints has established a 67-year Namibian legacy, creating personalized paint solutions that blend quality and innovation for the Namibian people. We pride ourselves in being a 100% Namibian-owned company, investing in our country and our people by employing and empowering true Namibians. With every brushstroke, Neopaints commits to our quality guarantee and always delivering a coat of excellence. At Neopaints, we always stay true to our country. We are as Namibian as you.
Getting into our story of the day, Swakopmund Mayoral Development Fund donates a total of 200,000 Namibian dollars to 20 schools in the town. The donation is aimed at supporting the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture to ensure that children learn and develop in a conducive environment so that they can become successful and end poverty in our country. Swakopmund Mayor Dina Numeb says this assistance will not only benefit one child, but it will contribute to the learning and development of all learners at numerous schools. Precious Ngitunapo reports.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a firm believer that education plays a pivotal role in our town as a tool to eradicate poverty in our society. Hence, despite the challenges I must boast that our council has prioritized education as well as the well-being of our community to ensure that we are a self-sustainable city. Nelson Mandela once said, and I quote, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world," end quote. Therefore, in recognition of this, we have made a deliberate decision to support the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture to ensure that children learn and develop in a constructive environment and conducive environment so that they can become successful and end poverty in our country. Ladies and gentlemen, Council realized that the schools in Swakopmund, especially the government schools, struggle with the items such as printing paper, textbooks, as well as equipment that could aid towards them providing a conducive learning environment for their learners. This follows the decision to end the School Development Fund some years ago, and when the schools were made free of charge, or the education was made free of charge. As we all know, most of our community members still in destitute and children come from these homes to go to school. Some do not even have a decent meal at home. They must worry about their stationery and their examinations as well. This is indeed saddening, as the Office of the Mayor also deals with these inquiries on a regular basis. As a result, over the years, we have been donating $1,000 on an annual basis, which was really very little. The donation of $1,000 was to contribute towards the annual prize giving event and its positive impact on the students and staff at the school. The council has decided that it will no longer be able to extend the financial contribution for annual prize giving. However, due to the increase in the number of challenges experienced by the schools, we felt compelled to increase the amount to the value of $10,000. This assistance will not only benefit one child, but it will contribute to the learning and development of all learners at numerous schools. We are confident that our new support initiative will bring additional opportunities and enriching experiences to your school communities. Thus, our objective is that schools will identify educational needs that will contribute to quality insurance and their respective schools.
Now moving on to community news, former Ohangwena Regional Governor donates towards schools. We get into this on the other side of the break. Now, former Ohangwena Regional Governor Usko Ngahamwa has again dug deep into his pockets as he donated $126,000 yesterday to Onakale Combined School in Ohangwena Region. Ngahamwa said that $55,000 from the donation will be for the best performing learner at the school. He added that education should be tackled by everyone to ensure that a Namibian child is educated. Let's take a look.
Imalu imwili apa oyen. Mwa anda mostrange. Watiela pa mwana fa maholi asila ni sama maholi. Kasna nembu dia tua nande ungeno milongo bainana no da pitap. Kwanandina mukasiraka. Imalu ndi patango nawa. Toifene sa swa demo swana. Ne shune yo mo swana. De na yemo ri na yemo rongo. Na yemerongo, tashingenge ya imerongo, nitu ikiwa moshibanda. Oyatu ikiwa mosaifa iwa itamwina ndomuku. Hasho, ushone ati ya njereka ha. Ba mota pupine tatia, okushine ni mariwa. Okutule no liye. Comrade, ondo bepo shilongo shenye, italamanye modularo kahai katomeba, oyufumane.
Now, the 57th SADC Committee of Central Bank Governors meeting officially opened today morning. We take a look at this story in our economic news right after this.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master. Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
Getting into our economic news, Prime Minister Sarah Kukwangwela Amadila this morning officially opened the 57th SADC Committee of Central Bank Governors meeting in Swakopmund. She touched on the issues of inflation and the impact of climate change in the region. Let's take a look.
Inflation, largely emanating from recent global developments, remains sticky and has introduced a policy conundrum that has been testing the resolve of central banks. Nonetheless, your efforts to tame inflation and ensure that inflation pressure doesn't suck household incomes dry or morph into a perpetual spiral are starting to yield results. It is pleasing to see inflation rates in most of the region as elsewhere in the world coming down. However, optimism should certainly be exercised with caution, as the battle is not yet won, and in some of our member countries, inflationary pressures are still intensifying. Furthermore, it is important that there is coordinated efforts between governments and central banks to strengthen support to the economy in order to accelerate economic growth and employment creation. GDP growth in the region continues to diverge, but output generally remains below potential, with unemployment at higher rates. Whether these below potential activity levels stem from structural or cyclical factors, it is here now, and we must collectively craft ways to deal with it. I am very much alive to the fact that the region has endured successive series of natural disasters, droughts and floods due to climate variability. Here in Namibia, the effect of the El Niño phenomenon has caused severe food insecurity, which require public resources to address.
Let's take a look at our economic indicators. The Namibian dollar trades against the British pound at 23.82, against the euro at 20.49, against the US dollar at 19.12, 2 Namibian dollars and 60 cents gets you 1 Chinese yuan. On the commodities market, all major commodities went down except for Brent crude oil, trading at 0.84%, going for $90 and 91 cents per barrel. After this short break, we get into your international news. Now, hundreds of Tibetans staged a protest in New Delhi early today ahead of the G20 summit in the Indian capital. Members of the Tibetan Youth Congress chanted "Shame on China" and "Free Tibet," and demanded that Tibet be discussed among the group of 20 leaders during the summit. However, Chinese President Xi Jinping is skipping the G20 summit and will be represented by the country's premier, Li Qiang. Tibetans accuse China of illegally occupying their country and oppressing their community. China has ruled Tibet with an iron fist since troops took over the region in 1950. Beijing fears any unrest in Tibetan regions could pose a threat to its rule there. The government rejects criticism that it has repressed Tibetan religious freedom and culture, saying its rule has ended serfdom and brought development to a backward region. Let's take a look.
Here for the cause of Tibet, and also for the thousands of Tibetan children which are separated from their parents and kept in camps, and they were being manipulated by Chinese government so that they will not know about Tibet and everything.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken announced new aid for Ukraine totaling more than $1 billion in a visit to Kyiv on Wednesday, including over $665 million in new military and civilian security assistance and millions of dollars in support for Ukraine's air defenses and other areas. Let's take a look.
We will continue to stand by Ukraine's side, and today we're announcing new assistance
totaling more than $1 billion in this common effort. That includes $665.5 million in new military and civilian security assistance. In total, we committed over $43 billion in security assistance since the beginning of the Russian aggression. We're sending our first delivery of mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles to Ukraine's border guards and police, some of whom I'll have an opportunity to visit with tomorrow. And we're providing critical assistance for demining to help clear Russian landmines, unexploded ordnance, and other daily remnants of war killing and maiming civilians. Today, with President Zelensky, I discussed longer-term sustainable security arrangements, which will provide ongoing security assistance and modern military equipment across land, air, sea, and cyberspace, as well as training and intelligence sharing.
What did you hear, what one or two things did you hear on this trip from President Zelensky or others?
In the current counteroffensive, we are seeing real progress over the last few weeks. As it happens, President Zelensky just returned from the front line, so I was able to hear directly from him his assessment of the counteroffensive, and I think it very much matches our own, which is, as I said, real progress in recent weeks.
Because if Russia manages to succeed even partially, it will be a clear motivational signal, a clear encouragement to all other malign forces across the globe to solve problems through the use of force. The second argument is also, I think very simple. I don't want to sound rude, but the question is, if the West cannot win in this war, then what is the war that the West can win? And when I say the West, I include Ukraine to this list as well.
We will now head over to the sports desk as Ari Hohart updates us on the Rugby World Cup from France. The city of Saint Etienne will wake up to Italian and Namibian chants by dawn tomorrow as the two nations go head-to-head in their first group stage match. Let's get into that.
Dis 'n heerlike atmosfeer hier so in Parys. Rugby Wêreldbeker 2023 wat begin. Ek het ook vir John Heinz, hy's die hoofuitvoerende beampte van Namibia Rugby ook gekry by die Eiffeltoring in Parys. En kom ons hoor wat sê hy in die opbou na die groot wedstryd Namibië teen Italië. Wêreldbeker 2023 in Frankryk. John Heinz voorreg om saam te wees, president ook Petri Tron. John, eerstens, dis nou môre ewe skielik. Die afskop is nou naby. Wat hoor jy daar van die kamp? Is die manne gereed?
Nee, manne is gereed. Hulle is reg vir die Italianers en ons gaan 'n bietjie vir die Italianers wys waar word biltong gemaak.
Ja. En ons het al voorheen teen hulle gespeel, natuurlik in vorige wedstryde, maar dit is 'n tydjie terug. Namibië se blootstelling ook in die opbou, gelukkig met wat in Suid-Amerika ook gebeur het.
Ja, natuurlik was dit natuurlik vir ons 'n deurslaggewende uitslag geweest om te kyk wat is die kombinasie wat die agterspan mee gelukkig sou wees en natuurlik om die beste span vir die eerste wedstryd te kies.
Ja, en Petri, die sommer net die logistiek ook rondom dit van Rugby Namibië se kant af om op die ouend 'n dag voor die afskop hier te wees. Jy het nou nog eintlik goed wat jy aan aandag moet gee, so dit hou eintlik nie op nie.
Dit hou nooit op, Ari, dat ek vir dit sê, jy weet dat die ding hier rondom is dat ek moet vir jou sê Rugby France het fantastiese reëlings. Ek sê alles is aan plek. Hierdie ouens het regtig aan alles gedink. Ek moet sê dit is 'n goeie teken, weet as hulle so professioneel afskop alreeds. So dit verg baie, jy weet, dis baie mense, dis nie net die toeriste wat inkom nie, dis al die spanne, dis jy weet al die delegates, soos ek sê, jy weet ook oral ingeskakel raak. Maar wie weet, hierdie ouens weet hoe om dit te doen, hoor. Ek dink is professioneel by uitstek en ons kan verseker weet dat hierdie toernooi gaan 'n groot sukses wees.
'n Groot dag Namibië teen Italië. Ek dink tog ons kan Italië baie diep in die oë kyk. Dit sal 'n lekker wedstryd wees daar in Saint Etienne 1uur Saterdagmiddag daar afskoptyd. Onthou natuurlik ook, dit is openingswedstryd van Frankryk 2023 wat 9uur Vrydag aand begin afskop en dit is Nieu-Seeland teen Frankryk. Tot dan, allez le bleu en ons is opgewonde Rugby Wêreldbeker 2023.
Let's get into the highlights from today's broadcast. Popular Democratic Movement lawmaker Hidipo Hamada has implored the government to explore innovative policies that will put an end to long-distance marriages to safeguard the well-being of spouses, children, and the sanctity of marriage. Namibia's aviation sector is unlikely to be affected by the standoff between Menzies Aviation and Paragon regarding a ground handling contract at the Hosea Kutako International Airport, the Namibia Airports Company has said. Namibia and Italy will face off at the Stained Geoffrey Guichard on Saturday at 1 p.m. The Namibian rugby nation is expected to have little to no sleep as Namibia's national rugby team prepares for battle. The excitement has been building for months, and now the time that rugby enthusiasts have been waiting for has finally arrived. And with that, we've come